Welcome to Discover Health, a White Mountain perspective. I am your host, Dr. Tom Barela. And our topic today is one that's special to me personally and also special to my stomach. We're going to talk today about food. And to do this, we've asked Becky Moffat, nutritionist and diabetic educator at Summit Healthcare, to join us with her expertise in this area. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you for having me.
I enjoyed your last visit to us, and I'm sure we're going to be enlightened today. And I just got to start the discussion today by saying, why is it so hard to eat right?
That is a very good question. Because if it were easy, we'd all be eating healthy. It's not that people don't know what is healthy. We all know that vegetables are good and other things may not be as well, but it is so hard because we have so many other tempting foods around. We have so many easily processed foods, fast food, smells, and we're hardwired to like fat and sugar and salt.
And salt. and all of those foods are okay in moderation,
always,
maybe?
Always.
And prepared the correct way?
Correctly, yes. Yes. And I like to tell people that there isn't any one food that is not healthy. You can make any practically unhealthy food part of a healthy diet, but the answer is moderation. How often do you have something? How much do you have of it? That is crucial. So.
Okay, and that actually makes sense. Now, a lot of people struggle with controlling their weight, and I know in your role as a diabetic educator and the illness of diabetes, that weight control has a significant role. Why is it so difficult, again, to control weight? Although I think I know what your answer is going to be.
For the same reason it's hard to eat healthy is definitely, and it's partly the inactivity. You know, I see a lot of patients who may not always overeat, and there is and I'd like to make to differentiate between obesity and being overweight. People who are very, very heavy, they have more of a disease, where those of us who just need to lose maybe 25 or 30 pounds, we're that way because we overeat. And we all have maybe a genetic predisposition one way or the other to be fat or thin, but a big portion of it is our environment. Our environment's the biggest portion.
And I know there's a lot of diets out there. It seems like every time you turn around, there's a new diet book out there, and there's got to be a reason why there's so many diet books out there.
Oh, we're all desperate to lose weight, and it's a great money machine. And I'm constantly researching things for my patients that I saw this on Facebook, or I read this, or I heard this, and so I research it to see, and it may be harmless, and usually it is harmless, and it might actually help people lose a little weight, but will they keep it off? That's definitely the biggest challenge, and the only proven way is to make changes in your life, in your diet that you can live with. Making these changes to make behavior modification so you can change your habits, because otherwise you're going to go back to your old ways if it's a fad diet, if it's quick and easy. Too good to be true, it probably is.
Well, we always are looking for the easy solution.
You bet.
You bet. I absolutely agree with this. And I think your comment about habits is a really important one. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about habits here for adult patients, but a lot of habits start with young children when they're first out of the womb and starting making the transition between a purely milk diet to beginning to eat regular foods. And those people that are watching our show today might think that they need to create those habits now to begin to teach their children early on.
Most definitely. When I have a patient who is a child, I insist that I meet with the whole family, because how's the child going to get healthy unless the entire family is on board and willing to make changes themselves? One time I had a mother who was bringing her son, and they were making better choices, but his father was not on board, and he would bring in all these goodies and tempt them, and it would be in the house, and it was just too hard for the whole family to make these changes without him being on board as well. Yeah, it's a family thing. It's what you do in your home. Yes.
There used to be a statistic, and I'm not sure whether it's still valid nowadays, that if one of the parents was overweight, your child stood a 70% chance of being overweight, and if both parents were overweight, your child stood a 90% chance of being overweight.
I'm pretty sure that's still accurate.
And it's really related to what you're discussing is habits. So let's talk today about how to create habits.
How can we do that?
How can we do that? I know the current thought process that you're using is a volumetrics thought process, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So can we start by trying to explain what that thought process might be?
I'd like to talk and explain what we mean when I say volumetrics, and then after that I'd like to explain what I do about having people make changes to their behaviors. We call it brief action planning, or the SMART goals kind of thing. I'd like to address that as well. So first we'll talk about what, and then we'll talk about how.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
And so I brought with me today a book which is written by a doctor, Barbara Rolls, and she has done a lot of research on nutrition. And she has found that a lot of the things that we think are helping people lose weight don't necessarily work. For instance, drinking a lot of water might fill us up, but it doesn't really help us directly lose weight, whereas people always think that it does. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't drink water. Water is very healthy for you. We all need to drink more water for lots of reasons, but it doesn't rev up our metabolism in any way or contribute. Now, if you're replacing water with, replacing soda with water, yes, you'll lose weight. That's something different. That's calories, right? So anyway, the volumetrics that she has found is the weight of a food, how it sits in your stomach makes you feel more satisfied. And so what she's found is if you add more fruits and vegetables, which have a lot of water weight, foods with like a soup that has a lot of water weight, it does fill you up. It sits heavier in your stomach. It makes you feel a lot more full than something, say some crackers or something that doesn't have any water weight. And you will be apt to eat a lot less calories with a lot more volume of food, On the front cover of her book, she has 4 cups of tomatoes and 16 jelly beans, and they each have 100 calories. Well, you can just have 16 jelly beans in a few minutes, but it takes a lot more chewing and then the fiber in the tomatoes. It's a bigger volume. And so we have a slide that shows, I think it's a half of a cheeseburger or a hamburger, and just a very small handful of fries is the same calories as a big smorgasbord full of vegetables, a little fruit, and a big turkey burger. And so it has the exact same calories. And so it's that's the principle basically behind it, is that you can have maybe a half a Coke and a half a serving of fried chicken and a half a serving of fries, and you'll still be hungry, but you'll have the same amount of calories as if you had a full plate full of chicken and vegetables and rice, and then on a side salad and some fruit and a glass of tea or something. Same calories, but you'll be a lot more satisfied and feel stuffed with the second meal. And that's the principle behind her her approach. In her book, she has a lot of recipes, and she has before and after pictures. Say a stir fry, and it's got, you know, breaded chicken and broccoli and rice. Well, in the second picture, it shows a lot more food. Well, number one, the chicken's not breaded, so she used less fat. There's calories and fat, and a lot more broccoli, and probably the same amount of rice. And so it's a lot more appealing. You know, it looks better. It looks like you're getting a lot more on the plate, and you're still so you feel satisfied that you're not overeating. So
and essentially, with a full stomach, you're not hungry to eat more.
Yeah, or to indulge in some treats, you know, or to snack. We are a nation of snackers these days, and we get a tremendous amount of calories from snacking, in addition to our portions at meals. And I'm guilty of kind of being a grazer. And for years, we always said, oh, eat smaller amounts more often. But we're finding that it's possible to eat too much when you eat too often. And you do have to watch that as well. There's nothing wrong with a snack, don't get me wrong, but you can snack too much.
You know, I've heard people talk about high density and low density foods, and the fact that most snack foods are high density foods.
Very well put.
Which means they have a lot of calories in a small volume,
Yes.
like your jelly beans or
Ice cream.
10 potato chips.
Right.
10 potato chips is 150 calories.
2 fig Newtons, a half a cup of ice cream. You know, it doesn't take much, and that's just a few bites. You're not satisfied. It just kind of whets your appetite, so you want more. And they definitely have their place in your diet. It's not like you can't ever have them, but you know, to have a habit of having treats every single night, that's when it adds up.
Well, let's kind of look at the foods then. I mean, let's start with vegetables. Vegetables, you know, you hear parents tell their 3 and 4-year-olds, you've got to eat your vegetables. Matter of fact, The Who wrote a song about kids eating their vegetable or having their porridge and before they can have their dessert.
And that's what I actually disagree with.
Okay.
Because if you hold out a dessert and you insist on the vegetables, it just makes the vegetables less desirable and the dessert more desirable. One of my favorite dietitians, her name is Ellen Satter, and she has written lots of books on feeding children. And her website is fantastic, but she definitely taught me that you don't bribe with dessert or with treats. You know, if you clean your room or whatever, it just makes the treats that much more enticing.
Right.
And to find non-food rewards is a trick, though, because it's
Well, let's go back to the good stuff. Let's go back to vegetables. It is a problem. Parents have a difficult time, and I know there's lots of techniques to make vegetables more desirable. I was going to say palatable, but that's not a good word. It's more desirable. So what can you do as a person, as a cook, as a mother, as
I had a chef teach me that you eat with your eyes first, and vegetables add a lot of color, and they really do look pleasing to us because of the color. And so I would encourage people to add more color to their diet. They're getting nutrition, number one. They're getting fiber, number two, but they're also getting, it's pleasing. And you can certainly, you know, cook them in a lot of different ways. And I tell people that they're like, well, I can only afford canned vegetables, or I only like them with ranch dressing. Well, go ahead and eat your vegetables. I'd rather you have them in any form than no vegetables at all. They are that good for you, and they will they will, and you've seen me recommend half the plate be vegetables, haven't you?
Yes.
You've seen that before.
I've heard that. I've heard that discussion
Over and over
and
and
lecture
over. Yes.
before.
Yes. So what I encourage people, where I encourage them to start, is to just add a vegetable with every time they eat. You know, whether it's something easy to prepare, like a bag of salad, or baby carrots, or grape tomatoes, or something along those lines. Those mini peppers, the bags of the those peas, the snap peas. You know, they're quick and easy.
All right. So one of the keys is vegetables covering half your plate.
They'll fill you up. They have very little calories.
And,
there you go.
And not using fat-laden sauces on top
like
of them.
like cheese sauce or a lot of butter.
Like broccoli and cheese.
Yes. You know, and you can certainly make a healthier cheese sauce and a lower fat and use a little bit less butter. It would just be using less. I would still like you to have broccoli. If you had to have it with cheese sauce, then no broccoli at all. But if you want to lose weight, then it would be ideal to not use as much cheese sauce. Maybe just dip a little bit rather than smother it.
One of the Weight Watchers techniques years and years ago was to dip your fork in the sauce
Salad.
and then into the vegetable, so that it wasn't all covered with it, just to give it a little bit of taste.
That works with salad dressings, and it would work with any kind of a sauce.
Oh.
And it still is an excellent tip.
So excellent tip.
Yeah.
So let's go on. I mean, vegetables. I mean, you can cook them a whole bunch of different ways. Some kids and people like them cooked. Some of them people like them raw. Some like them al dente. Some like canned. Most people really do like fresh. And I guess you could put fresh vegetables in a soup, which would be a very good way to get your vegetables.
It is, especially in the winter. You know, in the summer, salads are great. In the winter, you can make a very good, heart-healthy soup. And if vegetables are at least half of that soup, you've got it made.
So let's talk about one of the other food groups in your healthy plate, and that is fruits.
Fruits are good. They're fiber, they're nutritious, and they're sweet. And they can take the place of a lot of desserts. So.
And most of them are relatively low calorie, low food density.
Yes, because they have so much water weight. They are.
So a watermelon in the summertime would be a great fruit.
Yes, it would. You know, if you have diabetes, you have to watch. I usually tell people to keep your servings of fruit to about a fist, and try to keep it and you can use your own fist. If you have a big fist, you can have them a little more. To keep it to that. That's usually a good guideline for most people.
Okay, and I guess there are very few fruits that are really high calorie density. Avocados maybe being one.
Yeah, they're mostly fat. Avocados are more in the fat group, even though they are technically a fruit. And so I would count it as a fat. And I think an entire avocado might be 300 calories. Well, it depends on the size of the avocado.
Because a medium-sized apple is only 60 calories.
Exactly.
and slicing again, apple is a wonderful way. Is a wonderful way to get your apples.
It is.
So let's talk a little bit about dairy products.
Okay.
Dairy products, I know, are also part of the healthy plate. We need dairy products every day.
We do, actually. A lot of people prefer soy products, and that's just fine. I think it's the calcium that we need that we don't get from other foods. And so, you know, make sure your milk alternative, almond milk or soy, are calcium fortified. But we do need it. And cheese is fine in moderation. Yogurt is great if you get the kind without all the added sugar. So.
I mean, is that the light yogurts rather than?
Yeah, the lighter the plain.
I mean, because yogurt comes as like 80 calories or 90 calories, and it also comes as 140 to 180 calories.
Right. It can be like a dessert. A lot of those fancy ones that look like desserts, they have as much sugar as ice cream. You might as well remember that they are a dessert, some of those with all the goodies in it.
Okay. I want to go through one food group in a little bit more detail, and that is meats. because it seems to me that the way you prepare meats makes a tremendous difference in the amount of calories that you consume.
You bet. It does. If you fry your meat or you bread it, you're going to be almost doubling the calories. We all know we need to eat more fish. Fish is very heart healthy. But if you batter and fry a fish, you have the same calories as a hamburger. So hamburger patty. So it's very equivalent.
So grilling,
Really.
the way to go?
Yeah, grilling is
everything?
good. Not everything, because of all the black stuff can be cancer encouraging. So you know, then you just want to throw up your hands and say, I give up. You know, fish has mercury. I can't fry it. I can't grill too much. It's just always going to be moderation. Just moderation. You can spray a pan with Pam and not add, just don't add a lot of fat. Cook meat in the crock pot. Primarily chicken or turkey is still recommended over the red meats.
Over the red, and because?
Because they have less fat, they have less calories, less cholesterol. But, you know, beef and pork can have, you know, part of a healthy diet. They can be part because they have zinc and iron and nutrients that we might not get in white meat. So I still recommend a little bit, but not a lot. Now, we have a lot of people who don't do beef and they're fine. You know, I do recommend, I think the ideal diet is a plant-based diet. You can be vegetarian and not have meat. It makes it tricky when you have diabetes because you're stuck with a lot of things that have carbs for your protein, namely beans and lentils. But nuts are a good source too of protein. They're very heart healthy.
But nuts also have fats in them too.
They have
so
a
they
good
can
healthy
be really,
fat.
They can add up your calories
They can.
really, really quickly.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So we haven't talked about it, and even in our preparation we didn't discuss it. Talk to me about using vitamins as a supplement for your diet. Is that a big part of dietary recommendations? You
know, if someone has a food allergy or a food aversion, I often will recommend a multivitamin. Multivitamins definitely have their place, but I don't always recommend them. You know, it's always going to be better to get the nutrition from your food. You're going to get a lot more, it's more well absorbed when it comes in food form than in pill form. And there's always things in the food that you know, you're not going to get if you're taking a pill. And I'm also in that vein lumping in meal alternatives or meal substitutes. Meal replacements is the word. You know, like Ensure or Atkins shakes, Slim Fast, all of those shakes. They do help people lose weight. They have a place because they're low in calorie and you don't have to make all those decisions about what to eat. And the same goes with juicing, you know, and just having, and by the way, if you do juice, use the whole fruit, get all the fiber, because you're not getting fiber if you're drinking your calories.
So if you're squeezing the
if you're just getting the juice, you're not going to get all that nutrition. You want to use the whole food. There's so many other things in the food that we're still finding out, phytochemicals of different sorts that seem to be cancer preventing and heart enhancing, and you know, just so many things that I'm always wary. But for one meal a day, it might be fine to have a meal replacement like that to drink, and they do have all the vitamins and everything. The only exception to that is if people are trying to gain weight. Those meal replacements are good as snacks, not as a replacement, but to add to their diet because it's high in calories.
Yeah, those things are like 1 calorie per gram.
I know. So when you want to gain weight, drink your calories. When you want to lose weight, cut the calories that you're drinking. That's the #1 rule.
And okay. I don't drink much soda, sugared soda or sugar drinks, but I mean that it seems like it's coming up with a plan that your foods are cooked right in the right amounts of them. You're not a big fan of supplemental vitamins. I know there's areas of the world where that's an important
it's necessary,
piece.
you bet.
Yeah, because vitamin A deficiency is the most common deficiency in the world in countries that can't go down to the grocery store every weekend and pick up all the food groups like we can in America.
No, it definitely has its place, yes.
All right. So
I take a multivitamin.
I do not. Although it has been recommended for young children and that's only because children typically don't eat all the food groups.
Right, it's just a catch-all. It's a good catch-all, you know, and I'll see a child who's a super picky eater, you know, and all they eat is just like one food group, you know, like namely bread or something. And it's quite amazing how our bodies can adapt and extract even minuscule amounts of that nutrition that they need that's in the bread if they need it.
Okay, Becky, we're getting to the end of this.
Okay, I'm going off on a tangent, sorry.
I don't want you to, no, we're going to bring you back because your final advice, how do we succeed? How do we succeed?
I think it's important to keep a food log, to take a look at it objectively and say, okay, where do I need to change? What do I want to do? Because everyone kind of knows in the back of their mind what they need to do different. You know, say you're going out to eat more than you should, or you're eating too many desserts or snacking too much at night. You know, pick one. Just pick one thing to work on that you're willing to work on. Because if you have a sacred cow that is ice cream, and life is not worth living without the ice cream, then pick something else. Or you can work on the portion of ice cream. But so what we do is it's called brief action planning. And we have people choose a goal that they're willing to work on, and it's small. And if they, on a scale of 0 to 10, if they're not confident to a 7, then we make them go back and make their goal easier. And then you build on that success. You make the habit easy enough that you're going to be successful. And most people aren't patient enough. That's my other advice. Be patient, stick with it, and you will lose.
Most people don't realize that losing a pound a week is really
it's a
good goal.
Yeah.
It's success.
Yes.
And that means if you're 50 pounds overweight, the new technique has got to last a year. I'm going to thank you for all of that wonderful advice. And to all of our listeners, I hope that you have a thought process of how to approach eating healthy. And thank you for watching.